Yo, everyone believes that MSTR's new breaking $10 billion stock split could be the catalyst that sends Bitcoin to $1 million per coin. Some people have been saying that this would hypothetically add 3.3 trillion to Bitcoin's market cap. But today, we want to run the numbers and explain the truth behind what MSTR is doing and explain what comes next. Saylor's initial plan to buy $42 billion of Bitcoin over 3 years has shocked everyone, and it's proved to be an overwhelming success. And even more so considering he's nearly bought all of that Bitcoin in the last 3 months alone. His new announcement yesterday to issue all these new shares could be even more surprising. So what does Michael Saylor have up his sleeve? Before we start that conversation, I do want to bring up my legendary co-host, Optimus Fields, and of course our special guest for today, Gen Z Bitcoin. So what am I talking about? Let's pull up the screen. Here is a tweet by Joe Burnett. He's a great content creator. I believe he is with Unchained. And he went out with this tweet yesterday. He said, MSTR wants to issue 10 billion more shares. At current market prices, that would be 3.3 trillion or $36 million, 36 million Bitcoin. What comes next will be unprecedented. Something will have to give, and I'm guessing the price of Bitcoin will be going much higher. He continues to say, obviously this will not happen tomorrow, but just like their $42 billion plan from October, this would authorize them to issue 10 billion additional shares, which would currently be worth 3 trillion. Of course, Saylor would only do this over time if to accredited shareholders. It continues to say, this could also include potential future stock splits. Assuming a 10-to-1 split occurred soon, then it would enable MSTR to issue 300 billion of new shares at current market prices. Still, a massive ATM moment, equity issuance that would occur over time. Now, I saw this article. It's fascinating. And again, I think really what's happening from my perspective is Saylor is taking advantage of the fiat system to buy something that has absolute scarcity. So he takes on debt, uses his company as collateral. He uses that loan from that debt to buy more Bitcoin. He puts it on its balance sheet. His share price goes up, and he does the exact same thing over and over and over and over again. And of course, this has led MicroStrategy stock to outperform almost the entire of the S&P 500, leading to companies like Microsoft and Amazon to question putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet. I mean, over the last 5 years, the stock is up 2,362%. This was essentially a dead stock since the 2000s, the dot-com crash. It went all the way down to $2.50. Fast forward, 20 years later, essentially, the stock went up to $16, but it's not like a huge, massive winner. And the moment he adopted a Bitcoin strategy, you'll see what happens. This thing literally hockey sticked up for our audio listeners. And what's fascinating, again, is you see all the bears on MicroStrategy on X. You're saying, short this, short this. I think we're seeing a phenomenon that the debt-based system that we live in is not ready for. So when Saylor goes on these news networks and says stuff like the first country to use their fiat money printer to buy Bitcoin is going to win, that's essentially what he's leveraging his company to do. Because you're using something that you can create for free, and you're using it to buy something that has absolute scarcity. Like if we take Joe Burnett's, numbers at face value, there is no 36 million Bitcoin. Just like there's 50 to 60 million millionaires all around the world, but there's only 21 million Bitcoin, it's the same math. Something's got to give at one point. And what that thing's going to give is number go up. We have this breakout, what people call it, the last cycle, so to speak. And I think all bets are lost when nation states start acquiring Bitcoin. You think what Saylor is doing is interesting? Wait till a central bank that can just print money out of thin air does the exact same thing. I think this is just going to blow people's minds because people still don't understand two things. Thing number one is Bitcoin is designed to go up forever, Laura. And thing number two is absolute scarcity. It's a concept that's extremely hard to get your head around, especially if you're just getting into Bitcoin. Like, for example, gold is scarce. The thing is, when the price of gold rises, the more production of gold comes along with it. Think about it. If the price of gold doubles, then gold miners are incentivized double to mine more gold. So the inflation rate of gold is roughly around 1 to 2%. The inflation rate of Bitcoin currently, it's at like 1 point something, but it's literally destined to go down forever because of the halving and because of the absolute scarcity. And that's what makes Bitcoin so uniquely different. And I think it's going to take the financial world by storm. Now, not everyone agrees with this. Here's Joe Park, and he says, MSTR is not issuing 10 billion shares to buy 3 trillion worth of Bitcoin. I can't believe I'm tweeting this on Christmas Eve. Now, what I would say is when MSTR adopted, did we lose Gen Z? We did. When MSTR adopted a Bitcoin strategy 4 years ago, back in 21, the market cap of MicroStrategy was roughly $1 billion. The market cap of MicroStrategy today is $100 billion. He 100x'd his company using a Bitcoin strategy in 4 years, 4 or 5 years. Now apply that to individuals. Bitcoin has completely changed my life, economically, career-wise. It's done the same to Opti. Do you think it's a coincidence that the first country that made Bitcoin legal tender, and of course I'm talking about El Salvador, has the most popular president in the Americas? He has a 93% approval rating. Do you think that's a coincidence? Just like it's a coincidence that the first company that adopted a Bitcoin strategy is outperforming the rest of the S&P 500. That's a coincidence too. Just like it's a coincidence with me where all of a sudden housing and groceries are not getting more expensive for me because I'm on a Bitcoin standard. Everything is getting exponentially cheaper. In fact, if you look at groceries or housing or energy, over a 5-year scale, they've all gotten 90% cheaper for me because I've been living my life on a Bitcoin standard. The world has not awakened to it yet, but I think it's going to take the world by storm, and I think a lot of people are going to be incredibly surprised. Anyways, I'm going to pass it on to Opti, but before I get to that, I do want to give a shout out to the roughly 1,100 of you guys watching live between YouTube and X. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button. It really, really helps with the YouTube algos, really helps with the Rumble algos, really helps with the X algos, really helps push this message forward. So smash that like button. Opti, all yours, man. This is crazy, dude. 100x. I mean, like, who would have thought? Who would have thought? But again, like, it's not surprising because I've been on a Bitcoin standard for 8 years now. And I know how it's radically changed my life for the better. And I could say the same thing about you, man. Like, Bitcoin is the hack.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. Bitcoin is very obviously the hack. And, someone in the chat said, Time Magazine Man of the Year for 2024 is obviously Michael Saylor. I think he's been putting on a masterclass. Saylor's been putting on a masterclass all year long. And I think the real big signal, well, first of all, the funny part is I didn't know Bitcoin had 36 million coins. So that's news to me. Shouts out to Joe Burnett for the breaking news here. Now, obviously, I'm trolling. It just means that the Bitcoin on the market, or rather the Bitcoins that you hold, will be more expensive. If you really think about it, the Bitcoin market cap right now is at $2 trillion. If $3.3 trillion does enter the market, obviously, if you look at kind of the data here, it's optionality. So he will be able to issue that much, that many shares. And obviously, it's all going to go into Bitcoin. Now, I think the real signal here is that all year long, Saylor has been putting on a masterclass for every other CEO and corporation in the world right now. And he's really forcing their hands. He's really doing the meme like, hey, if you don't want to compete in Bitcoin, if you don't want to buy Bitcoin, that's fine. I will scoop up as much Bitcoin as possible. I will convert as much debt as possible. And I'll just keep stacking Bitcoin. And he's really kind of doing the have fun staying poor meme right now, where it's like, hey, Microsoft, you don't want to buy Bitcoin. Your shareholders don't want to buy Bitcoin. Well, that's cool, but my shareholders do. And we're going to do whatever we can to buy as much Bitcoin as humanly possible. And I think this is going to catch on very clearly next year. It's still a little early. We've seen and we've covered this year. So many things have changed in the Bitcoin landscape over the year of 2024. And I think 2025 is going to be a crazy year. Obviously, we've been covering this all year. We are kind of at the year-end wrap-up. But the big changes are obviously the Bitcoin ETFs. The institutional capital is finally able to get into Bitcoin. We're seeing nation states talk about Bitcoin. And then, of course, the FASB rule change. And then also the talks of banks custodying Bitcoin. So things are fundamentally changing. And Saylor's out here like, okay, I think Saylor, even himself, is starting to feel the FOMO of all of us talking about, wow, well, how high is the price going to go next year? And if it goes that high, then I can't acquire as much Bitcoin as I want to. And so you're seeing him starting to make very quick moves to try to acquire as much Bitcoin as humanly possible. And let's not forget, we kind of glossed over it in the beginning, but he issued the same amount of convertible debt to buy $42 billion of Bitcoin. And as the math's shown, he's pretty much bought in all, he's already deployed, I think it was like 30 something billion of that convertible debt into Bitcoin. So he's even feeling the same thing that all of us are probably feeling, where it's like, man, you guys still have fiat. Like, how can I get more fiat to buy more Bitcoin? Though he's doing it on a level that most of us can't comprehend. And I actually saw a really good tweet this morning. It was something on the lines of, 1% of the population understands Bitcoin. And then like 1% of Bitcoiners understand what MicroStrategy is doing. And I think I fall into that 99% where I can't claim to, say that I understand everything that Saylor's doing. But man, he is really, really putting on a masterclass to show how to run a corporate level and acquire as much Bitcoin as possible. So we'll see what happens in 2025. I think Saylor is going to become the richest man in the world pretty soon. Elon Musk better watch out.
I completely agree. I think that he's competing again. It's like, and I see this. I can't talk about it because first of all, I don't have experience to talk about it at those levels, public companies and all that. But I could talk about it from an individual level. I see all my normie friends and they're struggling to pay the rent, and they're just getting by. They live this like very nihilistic existence. I live in Miami, right? So it's like the short time preference capital of the world. Very, very fun, but not if you're trying to build a career, build a family, and, trying to get ahead economically and all that. And, the difference between someone who's adopted a Bitcoin standard and someone who's still in the fiat standard is night and day. You have a cheat code to your financial future. And, and it's not easy. This is not a get rich quick scheme. I love Lop's quote on this, which is, it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's a don't get poorly scheme. Don't get poor. I don't know what the exact.
It's not a get rich quick scheme. It's a don't get poor slowly scheme.
Exactly, right? Like all Bitcoin is doing, and I love Jeff Booth's take on this because it's so insightful. It's incredible. He basically makes the argument that the world should be naturally deflationary because of all the advances in productivity and technology. The problem is that because governments keep manipulating the markets and money, the common Joe, the average everyday individual, is not feeling those benefits. You know, we all know the trope, you know, in Bitcoin land, right? What the F happened in 1971? It's the same questions like, what the F happened in 1971? You know, and you just see all the charts. Again, is that a coincidence too? Just like the El Salvador coincidence, just like the MicroStrategy coincidence, just like the coincidence on an individual level of Bitcoin adoption. These are just all coincidences. Or it could be that the money is broken, and despite the money being broken, markets are still functioning anyhow. But imagine how markets would perform and how different wealth building would be if the world adopted a sound money standard. And I think we are in the midst of that happening. It's fascinating to watch. Anyways, I do want to welcome our special guest. We had a little bit of technical difficulties yesterday and starting today. It is Christmas week, and Opti and I are both traveling. We're with our family, so I apologize for that. But the show don't stop. Gen Z, welcome to the show. What's your take on Michael Saylor and his stock performance since adopting a Bitcoin strategy?
I think, can you hear me first of all?
Yeah,
okay. I think, is it good?
Yeah, a little staticky, but it's okay.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I think that it is like very incredible that all the big money's going in. And I think it's really cool that people are starting to take advantage of it and be able to use it against fiat money. And I think that's like just amazing. And I think that people should be educated on what's actually happening with the company. I've watched a few videos. I'm not like any economic genius or anything, but I do think that it's pretty cool what they're doing, and more people should learn about it around my age. And I think it's going to be like an opportunity for people to learn, because everybody my age wants to make money, and they just need to like learn the right things from the right people. And I think that could be a really good learning point.
Absolutely. 100%. I 100% agree with you, man. And, you know, it's inspiring. And the reason that we wanted to have you on the show today is, you know, and I say this all the time, if you guys are regular Simply Bitcoin viewers, you know, if you are a Gen Z if you are a millennial or a Zoomer, you don't have the opportunities that your parents had. Things are expensive. Housing is expensive. You don't have as much economic opportunities, but that's only if you are using fiat as your unit of account. So our generation, we are not adopting Bitcoin for speculative reasons. We are adopting Bitcoin out of necessity, right? And, you know, I say this all the time on my X handle. I don't know if I could say it, but, you know, there is no alternative. It's Bitcoin, or, you know, it's this continuation of not being able to save for a better future. And that's extremely nihilistic and depressing. Bitcoin is literally hope. Anyways, before we move forward, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Bitcoin Well. Bitcoin Well is the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. And it's also one of the fastest and safest way to buy Bitcoin on-chain or via the Lightning Network in Canada or the USA. What makes Bitcoin Well different is that it's a completely non-custodial platform. What does that mean? That means that when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, as soon as the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address, meaning you can't even leave the funds on the exchange. For higher net worth individuals, check out the Bitcoin Well Infinite product. Experience a white glove Bitcoin experience tailored to transactions of $50,000 of Bitcoin or more. So what makes Bitcoin Well Infinite different? You'll have a personal representative of which you can call to buy or sell Bitcoin. You don't have to deal with finicky UI or that, you know, Coinbase UI that you dislike. You actually have a real human being that you can call and have a conversation with. Also, every time you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you earn something called Bitcoin Well points. And you can use those points towards the Bitcoin Wishing Well contest, which we're going to do live for you guys right now. Toss a coin into the Wishing Well. Get your Lightning wallets ready. First person to scan the QR code has won 210 sats. You win every time you toss a coin into the wishing well, and you have an opportunity to win up to 1 million sats. If you use promo code simplybtc to sign up to bitcoinwell.com today, you get 3 tosses into the wishing well. All right, everybody, let's get to the numbers. We have lots to talk about. Let's check it out. We'll be right back.
I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Stamp Seed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed words really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of writing them down on paper. Don't do that. Paper sucks. You want to literally stamp your seed into this plate of titanium. Your words are actually stamped into the metal plate with this hammer. So once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and your pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and most importantly, because this is generational wealth, time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin for the long haul. I mean, here is the plate that they crushed. They put in water, they put a blowtorch to it, and as you can see, the words have survived. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed. And you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their store.
All right, everybody, scan the QR code on your screen right now. It'll take you directly to the Stamp Seed website where you can use promo code SIMPLY to get a Stamp Seed today. Don't write down your seed words on paper. Write them down. No, don't. Stamp them into literal titanium where they stand the test of time. Anyways, guys, almost 2,000 live viewers between YouTube and X. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button. Help us break 150 likes within the first 30 minutes of the show. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $98,650. Block height, 876,189. Sats per dollar, 1,014. Market cap, 1.95 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 10.71%. Percentage issued, 94.28%. Decline from all-time high, negative 8.9%. Realized monetary inflation, 1.12%. In the grand scheme of things, we are just getting started. All right, everybody, moving on to the next bit. This article by Yahoo Finance. Opti was covering it yesterday, but we do have some clips of you guys. Again, if you are to connect the dots with what we were talking about earlier on in the show, regarding the coincidence that for some reason, anyone or any institution or any country that adopts Bitcoin, makes it legal tender, puts it on its balance sheet, for some reason, just coincidence, their life improves. Their stock price goes up. That's just a coincidence, right? You couldn't it's just a coincidence. It's happening across the board. So Rumble secured a $775 million investment from Tether. I know Opti feels a certain way about stablecoins. I personally like stablecoins. I think they're a great stepping stone towards Bitcoin, especially in developing countries. Initially, what Bitcoiners anticipated was that in developing countries, you would see this mass adoption of Bitcoin. There is an adoption of Bitcoin in developing countries, for sure, without a doubt. However, what is getting adopted more in developing countries is stablecoins, specifically Tether. USDT is incredibly popular all around the world. Why? Because if you are in Kenya, or if you are in Cuba, or if you are in Venezuela, you cannot open a US dollar account. And you live in a country where there's a great deal of inflation. So what do? You can just download a wallet and all of a sudden you have access to dollars. Now, is it Bitcoin? No, but again, we understand inflation because, and I'm assuming most of our audience, because we do have the analytics for that, most of our audience lives in the developed world. And if you live in the developed world, you have the financial privilege of dealing with 2%. At the height of the pandemic, it was 10%, 8% maybe for a little bit, and then it went down. If you live in the developing world, you are dealing with multi-year double-digit inflation. And you cannot conceive what that's like. Imagine if you make a salary and all of a sudden, 1 month from now, your purchasing power of the salary gets reduced by 50%. It's unsustainable. That's why you're seeing so much record Tether USD adoption. Now, what I think is going to happen eventually, just like in the developed world, a lot of us have realized that the dollar's a scam, inflation is a scam, Bitcoin's a better unit of account. We already have that advantage. We already have that experience. They don't necessarily have that over there. They're just trying to survive. And for them, Tether's a way of survival. And I think eventually, when they're not dealing with just surviving, they're dealing with living and they're able to build wealth, all roads eventually lead to Bitcoin because Bitcoin is the better money. So, I understand some Bitcoiners feel a certain way about it. That's how I feel about it. Another thing too, also, is that, this thing is a huge deal. The fact that they invested in one of the largest video free speech platforms in the world is absolutely massive. Now, here's some of the details. It goes on to say, digital assets company Tether made a $775 million strategic investment disclosed by Rumble. After the announcement, Rumble's stock price is up 76%. Under the deal, Tether will buy 103 million Rumble Class A common stock shares at $7.50 each. From the earnings, Rumble intends to deploy $250 million to support its financial sheet and drive its growth objectives. The remaining money will help to finance a self-tender offer for up to 70 million Class A common shares, therefore giving liquidity to owners. And here's a clip of the Rumble CEO being interviewed, I believe, on Fox Business. Just check it out and we'll be right back.
This is a widely adopted currency, and contrasted to what your previous guest said, it is being used. It's being used multiple different ways, and one of the ways that I would like to see it being used is on Rumble, where creators can receive donations in BTC or Tether. They can receive donation or even get paid in BTC or Tether or US dollars, whatever they prefer. And that's kind of the way we're moving the company. And
all right, everybody, and we're back. Here is the CEO of Tether, Paulo, and he's comment on it. And he says, Tether is actively working with its partners to build the widest real-world use cases for BTC and USDT and other common freedom tech. Our dedication goes to the hundreds of millions, likely billions of people in our network of reach. Unstoppable will be a great 2025. Now, what's really interesting too is here is the CEO of Rumble commenting, imagine you can easily tip your favorite creators with BTC or USDT directly on Rumble. And I said, bullish on Rumble, give us a follow. Yes, we do. We pay a lot of attention to our Rumble channel, stream all our shows there, and we've been uploading all our content there from Dante and Rustin as well. So anyways, I want to pass on to Opti, get your thoughts on this, because I think it's incredible news that a video free speech platform like they advertise themselves gets such a big investment. And then again, do you think it's a coincidence that as soon as that investment was made, the guys on X basically saying, hey guys, we're going to be able to add Bitcoin tip functionality very, very quickly. That's beautiful to see in real time. Now, Opti, I know you're not such a big fan of stable coins like I am, but what's your take on this? I think it's a huge net positive for the industry, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, yesterday, I think when I covered this, the stock only hit only hit a 55% increase. And to see it end at the very end of the day with a 75% increase on its stock price is, I think, more signal to the idea that if you start adopting Bitcoin, that it's going to increase shareholder value. And obviously, I think it's a match made in heaven between Rumble and Bitcoin. And, you know, we love Rumble. And we constantly, as content creators, are always thinking about, can, you know, Rumble, you know, get some mind share or have a bigger network effect than YouTube eventually.
I think it does. I think it does. And mind you, like I want to preface that I love YouTube as a platform.
Yeah.
I grew up on YouTube. Still, I consider myself a YouTuber. But it's good to have multiple platforms competing for views because that creates competition, right? So I just wanted to preface it with that.
No, totally. And that's the fundamental question. And I think with them adopting Bitcoin, I think that is how they do get a lot of the mind share and the network effect to push them a little, you know, over the edge here. And I think it's obviously a match made in heaven. Free speech and Bitcoin is obviously, you know, symbiosis, and it really is a no-brainer. And so I'd love to see this move by Rumble. I think this is an incredible move. Obviously, yesterday when I covered this news, my internet and all that was acting up a little bit, and I was really more just covering the news. But I think everyone here knows kind of my take on stablecoins. I think Bitcoin is superior money than fiat money, and it does feel like stablecoins are just a way to dollarize the world. I think Bitcoin is going to eventually take over. I think all roads lead to Bitcoin, hence why I am a little more negative in regards to stablecoins. But we all do know, or at least we hope, that going to stablecoins like Tether is a first step to eventually getting to Bitcoin. I think my main concern is that people don't take that next step and they just stay in Tether. And I think that would be obviously a misstep by a lot of people, hence why I'm always like, yo, you need to get to Bitcoin. All roads lead to Bitcoin. But very clearly, this is a solid move by Rumble, and it's obviously increasing shareholder value. And I think this is kind of going back to what we've been saying in the beginning of the show, that every country needs to, on some level, have a Bitcoin plan, whether it's getting investment by Bitcoin companies, whether it's adding Bitcoin to their balance sheet, or doing the strategy and getting convertible debt to stack as much Bitcoin as humanly possible. I think we're going to see in 2025 that more companies, very big companies, might I say, are going to embrace Bitcoin. And if you embrace Bitcoin very late, then, you know, you're not going to be able to compete in the digital age. And I think these companies in 2024 that have taken that step are just proving what we've been saying forever. They're proving the theory correct, that if you embrace Bitcoin, this is a good thing for your company. This is a good thing for you individually. Everyone should be embracing Bitcoin on every level. And now we're seeing that by the end of 2024, we have some really big names doing this. And I think, Nico, we basically said this in the beginning of the year, that 2024, we're going to see some awesome names and huge names come into Bitcoin, even talk about Bitcoin. Now, it's only a matter of time until the dominoes fall. And I think that's going to be in 2025.
Yeah, 100%. 100% agree with you. Gen Z, what is your take on this?
I think that everything Opti was saying is true, and I agree more with that. We need to stick with Bitcoin, I think, as just a superior currency to everything else, and Bitcoin will always beat fiat. And yeah, I think we should keep it at that with me. I don't know too much about the other stuff, if I'm going to be honest. It's more of a Bitcoiner guy.
Short and to the point. All good,
yeah,
my
well,
friend.
I want to ask
let me pivot the question a second. So, you know, Gen Z, we were talking about this earlier on, and Opti we'll have to pivot a little bit during the culture and just adapt it. But you know, let's talk about that. You know, I'm assuming you've adopted Bitcoin. You adopted Bitcoin at a very young age, obviously. You know, how has it changed your life?
So I got into it when I was about 13 because of my mom, and my household doesn't make a ton of money or anything. Like we're not like we're fortunate to have. I'm fortunate to have what I have, and I'm very grateful, but definitely not like doing very, very stable. I can't buy anything I want to buy, and I know I won't be able to buy anything when I'm older without Bitcoin. And I think it has an opportunity to help me and other people own my own wealth. Like when I work, I'm going to be able to gain all the wealth I can from that and keep it the same and not let other people manipulate the money that I use. It's going to give me an actual source of money, like what we've been missing out on. I don't know how to explain it. I've been reading lots of books over the last few years, like as much as I can. I'm not very good at reading and understanding kind of how world history have worked. Like in my class right now this year, we're learning about world history and what's happened with all the other empires and how they all ultimately fell either because of power or money. And whenever they lost power in religion, because people could start to move around the world, they had to gain power in money to be able to pull strings whenever they wanted to. And with Bitcoin, I think it's going to kind of be the checks and balances of the world and help individual people like hold their value. Like, and everybody can do their own thing and be valuable to other people. But when the money's corrupting it, it like devaluates every single person. So that's what I think.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good point. We're going to fully explore this, man. You know, I wish I had that type of wisdom, you know, in my earlier years.
Me too.
But you know, this is what it's all about, is educating the next generation on alternative money, not only an alternative money, but an alternative mindset that comes with Bitcoin. I tweeted this out, I think it was like 1 or 2 days ago, but you know, I had like a eureka moment late last night or a couple nights ago, and I was basically thinking, like, when you have Bitcoin in self-custody and you do that for a long period of time, it will fundamentally change who you are as a person and how you view the world. Fundamentally, right? And you know, this is an educational thing. Like, this is a message that we need to continue providing towards the future generations, so that they wake up and they actually adopt a money that values their time and energy and work. That, you know, think about it. You spend all this time working for what? For a money that another person can create out of nothing. Like, that sounds like a scam. And I think it is a scam. I think inflation is one of, you know, I think it's something that they've been able to get away with because they've been able to control the mediums of information for a long time. But now that the internet has essentially opened up abilities for people to seek the information they wish to seek, to do their own research, to think critically, you know, eventually push comes to shove, they're going to have to ask a very basic question. They're going to have to answer a very basic question. Why is inflation necessary? Like, why should inflate? Like, why is it necessary? We already pay taxes. We agree to taxes. It's part of the law. It is what it is. That's a discussion for another day. But I don't think anyone has ever agreed to pay the money tax. And inflation, without a shadow of a doubt, is a form of taxation. And it's not companies doing this. It's not, you know, price gouging or Putin or a war or whatever it is. It is literally because the central bank is debasing the currency. Full stop. That's the only reason. And, you know, I don't think that has gone out enough yet, but I think we're getting there. I think we're making tons of progress. I believe I saw Jack Mallers on the Tim Pool show the other day. That's a great example, right? Anyways, guys, we're going to get to the news. We have tons to talk about. Let's check it out. We'll be right back.
I want to give a very special shout out to our sponsor, Compass Mining. They make Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone, from beginners to experienced investors. Their turnkey miners gets you online and hashing within 48 hours, making it easier than ever to start your mining journey. Plus, with their active marketplace, you can resell your miner at any time, adding flexibility and value to your investment. Visit their website to access a wealth of resources, learning everything you need to know about Bitcoin mining. Take your first step into the world of Bitcoin mining with confidence. Discover more at compassmining.io. Again, compassmining.io, and see how Compass Mining can power your success. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US, and it integrates seamlessly with their free app called Envoy. Passport is fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a classic feature phone, so you'll know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. It's also air-gapped, meaning Bitcoin stays offline, never touching an internet connection. It's Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, air-gap security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes with Passport at foundation.xyz/simply. Get peace of mind.
Our buddy Opti doesn't have it with him because he's traveling. for the holidays.
Traveling. You don't go with your hardware wallet when you're traveling, Nico. Come on.
But guys, not your keys, not your cheese. Take self-custody of your Bitcoin. Scan the QR code on your screen right now. Use promo code SIMPLY to get a discount on the Passport by Foundation Devices hardware wallet. All right, everybody, let's get to today's news. So let's show it. Let's check it out. By the way, yeah, it's incredible audience today. Really appreciate it. Guys, if you guys are enjoying the show so far, we're about to break 200 likes on YouTube. Make sure to smash that like button, and I'm raising our target to 250. So again, if you guys are enjoying the show so far, smash that like button. All right, everybody, let's get to today's news. So first off, we all remember this news about Putin signing a law to legalize cryptocurrency mining in Russia. Russian President Vladimir Putin has signed into law a bill legalizing cryptocurrency mining in Russia from November 1st, 2024. The document is published on the website for official publication of regulatory acts. The law provides definitions for such terms as cryptocurrency mining, mining pool, mining infrastructure operator. In particular, the law proposes defining the activity of cryptocurrency mining as the activity of conducting mathematical calculations by means of operating technical means for making records in an information system that uses, in particular, distributed register technology for issuing digital currency or receiving. I don't even know what that word is. The point is that they made this big splash about legalizing cryptocurrency mining. Then Putin, on one of the videos that he did of him being interviewed, they were basically asking him like, hey, Bitcoin this, Bitcoin that. He's like, look, Bitcoin can't be banned. That's one of the, and he said it in Russian, of course. And that was my terrible attempt at copying a Russian accent. But then we got this news, literally like a month later. Russia enacts 6-year blanket ban on Bitcoin mining in 10 regions. It continues to say Bitcoin mining will be banned in 10 regions and territories. And it goes on to, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. I'm sorry, guys. A bunch of regions in Russia. It goes on to say Russia will also enforce partial restrictions on mining operations in 3 Siberian regions during the winter, aligning with high energy consumption periods. These restrictions are set to start from January 1st to March 15th. It goes on to say the ban affects both mining pools and individual cryptocurrency mining activities. The list of regions and territories is not final and is subject to change based on the decisions made by the commission responsible for the development of the electric power industry. These restrictions aim to ensure a balance on energy consumption while considering the needs of various industries. Since November, mining in the Russian Federation has been legalized, provided that individuals submit information on their acquired assets and cryptocurrency addresses to the Federal Tax Service. It goes on to say, Russian mining pool E4 Pool shut down its operations earlier this month, citing regulatory restrictions. Now, this all reminds me of an article that Alex Gladstein wrote 4 years ago. The name of the article is Bitcoin is a Trojan Horse for Freedom. He goes on to say, and this is, I think, the part that sticks out the most, the Trojan horse has been popularized in computer science as a malicious program disguised as a helpful update. But it is also an effective metaphor for how Bitcoin stealthily co-opts actors who do not care about or do not like freedom to promote it anyway. The meme begins with wealthy individuals, corporations, and soon governments. This is where we are. This article was written 4 years ago, which see Bitcoin as a glittering digital gold. Out of self-preservation and greed, they're incentivized to buy, mine, or one day tax this new prize to accumulate the soundest money and gain an advantage over their rivals. Bitcoin does, after all, on an exterior, look very appealing. It is the best performing financial asset in the world over the past 12 years. I mean, this is what's happening, right? And later on in the article, he goes on to mention that freedom go up technology and number go up technology are inextricably linked, meaning you cannot disconnect the two, but that's not going to stop dictators and oppressive governments from wanting to benefit from Bitcoin, but saying, I want all the number go up, but none of the freedom stuff. The freedom stuff is terrible. But the thing is, you can't disconnect the two. It's a one-way road. So it's just fascinating again to see this game theory. Russia couldn't help itself when this news broke out that Russia, we got BTC Sessions, my brother from another mother in the chat. Putin wants no competition while they mine on the low for the Kremlin. Exactly, spot on. So yeah, I mean, like think about it from that perspective, right? Like, it's like, they want all the benefits, but they don't want to lift the restrictions up on their citizens. However, I think, as Alex Gladstein pointed out, it's a Trojan horse. Like, once you let that in, you can't go back. And again, this doesn't surprise me because I was really surprised when Putin said, hey, we're going to unban Bitcoin mine. Me and Opti were like, wait, what the F is going on, right? But they can't help themselves. And this is another part that I love about Bitcoin that a lot of people don't understand, which is Bitcoin exposes all incentives. So if you are a tyrant, regardless of whether you're left or right, Bitcoin will expose you for who you are. And that's what it's all about. Anyways, Opti, what's your take on all this? I mean, walking it back, bro. What's going on?
Well, I mean, really, Nico, are we surprised? I think you laid out the case really well. Everyone knows Bitcoin is freedom. Putin's even been saying that, but it is very interesting.
No. It's like you can't ban Bitcoin, ban Bitcoin mining,
Yeah, exactly. Well, it is interesting. So I'm really being reminded of the meme on Twitter, like in Mother Russia meme, like in Mother Russia, we can use Bitcoin, but our citizens can't. And it is really interesting that on the state level, they see the problem. They've been kicked out of the SWIFT system. They're looking for new payment mechanisms. They're looking for a new currency. They're even trying to make their own currency. And because they see that what we've all been talking about as Bitcoiners for a long time, that the dollar has been weaponized. If you're an enemy of the U.S., then you're obviously going to kick off the dollar system. The dollar is still a world reserve currency. And so it's funny that on the highest level, you have Putin basically saying you can't ban Bitcoin. And then within his country, he's like, yeah, actually, you have to, go through all of these obstacles for you to become a Bitcoin miner. So it is a very interesting take. And I think diving into this, Nico, it would be very interesting if we could get the data on how rich those regions are with energy. And it goes back to, the have fun staying poor meme. And it's really horrible if you really kind of break it down, because I would argue that those are probably very high energy areas. And the fact that they're basically saying like, oh, you can't mine Bitcoin, we're going to ban it for 5 years. It's a dumb move. It's a bad move, obviously, like very clearly, as anyone that understands the Bitcoin incentives. But are we surprised? Like, no, not at all. We know that on a state level, Russia is obviously looking for a money that they can't be sanctioned off of. And so, of course, they are kind of talking out of two sides of the mouth. They're like, yeah, we'll probably use Bitcoin on the state level, but when it comes to our citizens, you can't just mine Bitcoin. You're going to have to go through all of the legalities and regulations to sign up to mine Bitcoin. And I'm sure those regulations and laws and standards are very stringent, which means most likely it's not going to be anyone that wants to mine Bitcoin will be able to mine Bitcoin. So am I surprised? Not at all. I think it was very surprising at first that we heard Putin talk about even embracing Bitcoin. Obviously, he's being forced on a nation state level, considering that Trump is talking about Bitcoin and, embracing Bitcoin, a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And so Russia kind of had to come out and say something similar just to compete. But hey, are we surprised? Like, not at all. It is going to be interesting to see if this stands. Obviously, banning people from mining Bitcoin for 5 years is like the worst kind of handicapping you can do to your citizens or even to your economy and the companies over there. So it is a very interesting and seeming kind of wild move that we're seeing. But like Nico pointed out, Bitcoin is the Trojan horse for freedom. So are we surprised? Like, not at all. But it is kind of horrible to see. Hopefully they would embrace Bitcoin, but I'm not really surprised. It is just a weird move. Like, just kind of looking at it on the surface, like, what a strange move. And it's obviously a very bad move, if you ask me.
100%. Gen Zer, what are you thinking about this, brother? What do you think about this? I know you're talking about earlier, you're just focused on your life and building your stack and just, what you're doing. But I don't know if you want to offer a couple quick takes before we get on to the culture.
Yeah, sure. So I'm still learning as a kid and a person, like everything I can learn. And one thing I would ask myself about like this question is what makes a country rich and what makes a country poor? Like it may be obvious to you guys, but like I'm a kid, I have questions like that. And I could say, to answer that question, is it how much you can get your citizens to work for you for free pretty much? If you can print your own currency and pay your citizens that currency you're printing, does that make your country rich? The citizens definitely aren't rich. They don't have any real buying power. And with Bitcoin being a thing that you cannot print, I think governments are trying to get a hold of that. Like, of course, it's giving them the actual first real power you can buy would be Bitcoin. You have power across the whole world, but they don't want their citizens getting that. But for them to get the Bitcoin, like you said about the Trojan horse, they're going to have to start like showing that they're buying it and using it. And they're worried that they're going to lose the control over their citizens with Bitcoin. And I think that's what's happening. I know their country's not ran the same way America is, for sure. And with the dictatorship,
The dictator.
I don't even really know how Russia works. If I'm being honest, I'm not political or anything, but that's what I think, that they're going to lose control of their citizens, and that's their definition of wealth and power, is how they can control their citizens. With Bitcoin, they won't be able to. You get what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. That is, words of wisdom, man. Absolutely, 100%. I think that's absolutely spot on. And dude, I wasn't speaking like that at your age,
Yeah,
so
there's hope for the youth, Nico. There's hope for the youth.
Very, very wise. And I think that's a great statement, right? I think it boils down to control. And again, that Alex Gladstein article just keeps kind of repeating in my head. But anyways, guys, it's going to be a great show. We still have a ton to get to, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're going to hit the culture. Let's check it out.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, HIVE Digital Technologies. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's been battle tested through every possible market. And as the first with an AI strategy, HIVE continues to redefine the future of sustainable energy. Also, gotta casually drop this in here, HIVE consistently tops the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're changing the game. Learn more by following them at HIVE Digital Tech or check out their website, hivedigitaltech.com.
All right, everybody, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, BitBlockBoom. You definitely want to go check it out. It's one of the best Bitcoin conferences of the year, and it's going to be hosted in Dallas, Texas, April 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th of 2025. The whole Simply Bitcoin crew will be there. Nico, Opti, Dante, Rustin. It's going to be one of the biggest Bitcoin celebrations of the year, one of the best. And of course, it's going to be in the beautiful city of Dallas, Texas. You want to get your tickets quickly because the prices do go up. The next ticket price increase is in 11 days. Some of the speakers so far include Parker Lewis, Marty Bent, Bitstein, of course, Dante. We have Guy Swan, we have Bob Burnett, and of course, we have Gary Leland. And of course, the Simply Bitcoin crew is going to be there. Guys, you definitely don't want to miss, again, one of the best Bitcoin celebrations of the year, BitBlockBoom in Dallas, Texas, April 3rd through the 6th of 2025. Use promo code BBB21 to get $100 off of your ticket. All right, so I do want to open up this conversation. We have Gen Z BTC joining us today on the show. And shout out to the 2,600 of you guys watching live between all platforms. And we're on the verge of breaking 250 likes on YouTube. So I appreciate you all. If you guys are enjoying the show, make sure to smash that like button. So what I saw, Gen Z BTC, is a lot of people in the chat were saying that they loved your podcast. I didn't know you had a podcast. Could you talk a little bit about it?
I don't have a podcast, but I've been on a few with some different people. So that would
Fake
probably
news
be
in
what
the
it was.
chat. Fake news in the chat.
So
Yeah.
let me translate what the
No,
chat
Nico,
meant.
let's start with
Let
his
me,
rabbit hole story.
hold on. Let me translate what the chat meant. That meant that people love seeing him on podcasts. That's what it meant. And yeah, so Opti, I think that is a great question. What is your rabbit hole story, Gen Z BTC?
Okay, so is it okay if I yap for a minute?
Yeah,
It's
go
gonna
for it, bro.
take a little bit. So I'm just an average kid. I've grown up with a single mom my whole entire life in a house. I love playing sports, love being active, physical. I play football. I've done wrestling for 4 years, and I did football for 4 years. And I wouldn't say there's much that separates me from any like normal kid at all until probably about the 7th grade. I had social media. I would be scrolling, and one thing I realized is that I don't want to be poor when I grow up. What I meant by poor is that I want to be able to afford to take my family and friends out and not have to worry about the bill or be controlled by something like that. And that's like a very big statement to make. Like when I'm young, like I would say, like, oh, I want to be rich when I grow up. I was in middle school. That's something I would say a lot because I just like, I don't know. I just thought it was like really interesting thing to think about, like that people have the ability to do better than others without putting in the same amount of work. If you get what I mean. And that was something that I thought about a lot whenever I was younger. And I was just like trying to see what I could do to take a step at starting doing that. So I got my first book, which was Rich Dad Poor Dad, which was my very first book that I read. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool. And then my mom got into Bitcoin, and I think, I don't want to say the wrong date. I think it was 2020. I don't know. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It doesn't matter too much. She got in probably about like 20,000, 15,000, and just like kept going up and stuff. And she would always have videos out on the main TV. And I remember that was the years that I was playing lots of games in my room. And I would come out of my room and see her watching it. She would be like, Ben, if you're interested, go look at the video on this Bitcoin thing. It's pretty cool. I never really did. I could kind of care less. I was playing Fortnite with all my friends, having a blast on the computer or Xbox. And then slowly, one day, my mom told me about the Canada trucking incident during COVID when they all were forced to take the vaccine. And like, I don't remember too much about all the facts, but I remember being surprised how much control they had over the truckers and what they were trying to force them. And then I went down this rabbit hole of learning about Bitcoin my first time and learning that it has a bigger value than the dollar, like than just making money. Like I thought it was just something that people would make money with, like any other person would assume. And then I learned that that's like the perfect thing for my life goal of being in control of my own life would be owning Bitcoin. And then that kind of just sent me down the rabbit hole of learning as much as I can. I'm not that technical yet because I really can't be. It's not like I have tons of money to put into it. I'm trying to learn as much as I can. And my mom would always say, 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. And I didn't even understand that for probably like a whole 6 months. Like you can hear that statement and be like, oh yeah, 1 Bitcoin is always 1 Bitcoin. But it really doesn't make sense until you understand the whole roots of Bitcoin. Like you have to understand how it works, why it's important. And I kind of just did that over years. At school, I would read books. Kids would make fun of me at school for reading, but like not in a bad way. Like I don't really care. I play football and wrestling. So if you hear me saying that, it's not like a big deal. It's just friends messing with me, but they would make fun of me for reading instead of like sitting with them or messing around. Or during lunch, I went to my first conference in Miami, Bitcoin Miami. My mom took me to, and she was really brave to take me and her alone to the conference, and we met a ton of cool people. But leading up to the conference, I remember I was so excited, and I just read so many books about Bitcoin in school, and that's about it. Recently, I've just been trying to stack as much as I can for Christmas. I still don't have a job. Technically, I can't work yet, like full hours until I'm 16. I'm currently 15, and I'm just trying to find a way to save up some sats right now and then get a job in the future.
Yeah, and I appreciate your mom for, signing the release form to get you on the show. So shout out to your mom for that. And again, dude, like, one of the things that, when I was your age, I was not thinking about money and getting wealthy. But one of the things that I do regret now that I'm in like my early 30s is, goddamn, I wish I started sooner. So like 10 years from, and I have a theory, and I've heard this many times through whatever, but I really started like focusing on building my career when I was 22, 23. And it really takes 10 years. Like there's no skipping that. It takes 10 years to like, you're going to go through the first couple of years. You don't even know what you're doing. You're just trying to get your gauge on what to do. And then all of a sudden you start to kind of connect the dots. And if you really put your mind to it, you know, you're going to be in a much better place than when you were 10 years ago. But I think it takes 10 years minimum to build wealth. If you just put your just sole dedication to it, thinking about it, you know, entrepreneurship, thinking about different ideas, failing, getting up after you fail, betrayal, heartbreak, all of it goes into it. Opti's been here for some of that. And if you power through, and consistency and discipline to be consistent. But if you power through that, man, like it's not a question of if you will succeed. It's just a question of when. And I know that if I started sooner, I would have learned those lessons much earlier, and I would be in a different place than I am today at an earlier age, right? So I think you're on the right track, and all these things and concerns that you have, it's good, like, because you have to power through them. The faster you power through them, the faster you're going to get to like the next level. It's all part of the process. Like the NVIDIA CEO like had a video, it like semi went viral, but basically he like said something along the lines of like, you know, like what I tell my employees is that like they need to suffer essentially. You know, they need to suffer in order for them to succeed. And like, there's no going around that. Like there's no going around the suffering. You have to suffering. It's part of the process. And, you know, it's how you grow as a human being. And after a certain period of time, you know, eventually you'll find some type of success, some level of success. I don't know what that is, but, you know, again, most people your age aren't even thinking about that. They're thinking about having fun, what's going on in the weekend, whatever. You're thinking about wealth building, you know? So when you're 10 years from now, 20 years from now, dude, you'll still be below your 40s, you know, like, so you still have a huge runway of, you know, of a lot of wealth building opportunities, man. And I think in this Bitcoin world, again, it's so easy. I don't want to say it's easy, but it's a lot easier than traditional finance. So that's what I have to say on that. Opti, do you have any takes? And then we'll wrap up the show.
Actually, I told Gen Z before the show that even at 15, you know, with no job, just having this fundamental understanding, I think you're way ahead of everyone else. And you know, like Nico's saying, and to echo that, like, I wish I had this 10 years ago as well. You know, I was saying at 20, I would be happy even understanding Bitcoin, let alone at 15. And so this is a perfect segue into considering, you know, you're 15 years old. I really just want to know, like, what are your friends, or rather, if you try to orange pill people your age, like what is their thought process around Bitcoin?
Most of their thought processes are that I'm an idiot or that they don't care. It's either or. Normally there's no in between. I mean, like, I've met some kids who are like, yo, Ben, hook me up on that Bitcoin. And I'm like, okay, I will. Text me later. And I promise you I'll sit on a call with you and get you a wallet and send you $1 in sats. And then I never get a text. Like, if I've tried like explaining it to some of my like closer friends, or they're not my friends anymore, but like used to be closer friends, and they really don't care. Like, kids my age won't care unless it has an immediate effect on them. Like, they hear get good grades, go to college, but it doesn't have an effect on them. It's like hearing when you're really little, brush your teeth or else you get cavities. Like, you hear that, you know it's true because everybody says that. But like, once you get that first cavity, you're gonna brush your teeth every single day, because I've had to get a cavity filled before. Oh, it's bad. You get what I mean by that? So like, kids are gonna hear get good grades, go to college, and like they could mess up or go to college and like drop out or not actually like follow up their degree, and then get in debt, and it'll be too late. They're gonna be screwed. And I think that Bitcoin is gonna be the thing that teaches people with communication about like how to just get in control of your life, have a stable life. Like, what's the word for it? Like, have inner peace in your mind. That's like my goal, and to be able to help other people get to do that, whether it's being healthy, socially healthy. And part of being socially healthy is to have enough money to do what you would like to do. Not everybody has to be a billionaire, but I think everybody should be able to do what they like and work for it if they want to. I feel like in today's world, if you really want something, a lot of people can work as hard as you can for 20 years and you won't be able to get to it just doing normal stuff or working normal jobs.
Totally agree, bro. Actually, there was a good comment earlier in the show. So it was Ron P. He said he met you in Miami, and he was asking if you could tell the story about you. I think he said telling your teacher to have fun staying poor. If you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. But I think that'd be kind of a funny story.
Yeah, so I definitely didn't say have fun staying poor. Maybe I probably said that if I'm being honest, or I wouldn't say that to a teacher's face. I'm not disrespectful, but when somebody starts being disrespectful to me and like insulting me, I don't like it that much. Like, I'm a wrestler, I'm football kids. I don't like when people talk rude or disrespectful for no reason, especially when you're not educated on whatever you're talking about. It was an English teacher I didn't get along too well with. Got in trouble a few times for like going to the bathroom, which she said not to because I had to go pee. She like called the whole office, and we were beefing a little bit during the year. And I don't ever beef with my teachers. I normally try as hard as I can to stay on good terms with them. But one day, it started with a presentation. We were doing presentations about different stuff that was supposed to be in the future. I didn't get to pick the future money presentation, the economics, but I did pick the future food, and I did a whole presentation about beef and how good meat is really important. And we don't have to get into that, but I did a ton of research on how grass-fed beef is way better than normal beef and that everybody should be eating a lot more meat than we do. And I did that presentation. At the end of it, the teacher said, disclaimer, everything he said is wrong. Don't listen to him. You'll get heart problems if you eat meat. And then that felt really disrespectful because she had zero clue what she was talking about and it was really wrong. And I did all my research on it. And then some kid was like, Ben, tell the teacher how Bitcoin's going to change the world, because they knew that was going to start something. And then that's whenever it went off. And then she was like, Bitcoin's stupid. And I was like, why? And she was like, because it's not backed by anything. And I'm like, what's the dollar backed by? And she was like, the dollar's backed by the government and the trust of all the people. And I'm like, well, the Bitcoin's backed by the trust of everybody around the whole entire world. And then it just kind of went off. And like, I can't like argue with the English teacher in front of all the kids because she was talking loud because she knew everybody was listening. Like, we weren't arguing. Like, this was after class was on or like about to be done. And it ended up just like kind of going bad, kind of going good. We ended up on good terms, but she was just trying to tell everybody to like stay away from Bitcoin, don't risk, stay in traditional marketing. And I didn't like that the teacher was saying stuff that wasn't true when she is the teacher of the future generations that are going to be working. Like, I don't think that's fair. Do you get what I mean? Like, that's the thing that like messed me up, especially the meat thing. When she just said I was straight up wrong when I did like factual research that class for like a whole hour. That was the thing.
Well, it sounds like you were born to be a Bitcoiner, dude. Yeah. Already disagreeable.
Yeah, dude, that's funny. Yeah, I remember, you know, when I was.
Wait, Nico, tell your little presentation story real quick. TLDR it.
You know, yeah, funny. I mean, you're like I never got like all my teachers said I was going to be a failure. They still made fun of me, not make fun of me, but I can read in my head perfectly, but some words, because like Spanish is my second language, I learned English at like a later age. I still can't pronounce some words. So like you guys see it on the show. I don't try to hide it. I own it. They're like, you know, you have all these shortcomings and you don't check all the boxes. Like, you're never going to make anything of yourself. And I got so much peer pressure to like join, like, you know, start college and whatever. But it got to a point where I said like, no. And mind you, Gen Z, this is like before like you can even think about building a business online or anything like that. But I dropped out of college. It was the best financial decision I've ever made in my life because all I did was focus on Bitcoin after that. And look at me now, you know, all those teachers, right? Like you guys dropped the ball, you guys got it wrong. So like, you know, it's like, I think that the school system, the way that it's currently set up comes from the industrial era. It comes from an era that no longer exists. And it like essentially the way that I see it and the way that I felt it, and you're telling me that story and I'm like, that sounds familiar, is it makes you like a cog in the wheel. It makes you like a cog in the system. And if you have independent thought and independent thinking, you can't question certain things. The problem is that like, what if the thing that you're questioning is wrong in the first place? Like, you know, like this goes down to like first principles. Like, you know, and so many times, like building this with Opti from so many people, they called us crazy. They said it was impossible. You can never build a business out of this. Like I've heard this like so many times, but I've been on YouTube for 8 years. I know content. Like I understand this, and I was getting, you know, feedback and advice from people that didn't make content. And like, long story short, it was like, you know, they were wrong, right? So what I'm trying to say to you, man, is like, if you believe it in your heart that you're right, and especially if you did the research and you know that you're right, like follow your heart, like every single time. Like, and it doesn't matter where that person is authority wise. Like I'm not, of course, like you have to listen to your parents. That's just really important. But I'm talking about the outside. If you know that you're right, like follow your heart, follow your intuition. Your intuition is not going to fail you, right? Like 99% of the time, your gut feeling is 100% spot on. And I wish more people would have told me that early on in the road. I would have made a lot less mistakes, right? So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting phenomenon, man. But I think that because you found Bitcoin early on, like you did, I think you're going to turn out fine. And, you know, whether that's entrepreneurship or, you know, a career in the Bitcoin industry or career in whatever, you know.
Speaking of that, I want to say one thing. My goal right now, as I am sophomore year in high school, and I'm not on track to go to any like Ivy League colleges or anything. I don't have bad grades. I have a good like 3.2 GPA or something like that. I'm decent in school. And I've been playing sports and know my proof of work due to wrestling. Like that's a big thing that translate. My goal right now is going to be to probably intern for a company, or my main goal is going to be to go to conferences and go talk. Like that's what I want to do. I don't know if anybody in the chat could be able to help me with that. I really want to just be able to go out to conferences, and I feel like I could make a difference with my voice and help educate young adults and even kids, and like just get the word of education out and like peace of mind to like Bitcoin is the option. So I just wanted to say that to all the listeners. Anybody could like DM me or something. Anybody knows anything, that would help.
For sure, man. For sure. All right. I actually, we are getting, I think we'll probably wrap up in a minute, but hey, Ben, Gen Z BTC, if there is a Zoomer out there listening, or maybe we can clip this, what would be your TLDR 2-minute elevator pitch for a Zoomer to get into Bitcoin?
Also, smash the like button. We're at 285 likes. Help us break 300 likes before we end the show. There's 550 of you guys watching live on YouTube. All you got to do is smash the like button. Smash the like button. Really, really helps getting this message forward. Anyways.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. I
all
again.
right. So say you're talking to a Zoomer right now, a fellow Gen Zer. How would you pitch Bitcoin to them?
Bet.
Okay, so I would pitch Bitcoin as not a way to get rich, like you guys were saying. I would pitch Bitcoin as a way to change your life for the better in whatever way you want to. If you want to do something and you're struggling with fiat, then go to Bitcoin, and it'll make a difference in some way, whether it's getting healthy mentally, healthy physically, or healthy socially. Using Bitcoin to help you with being able to do what you want to do. I would say just start stacking sats as soon as you can, and don't be afraid to go talk to people on social media, or talk to people in person, talk to people even just like going on Twitter and joining a spaces and just talking. Like, it's so easy. Everybody's so nice in the Bitcoin space. Everybody's trying to help everybody else. It's like a group of people who are trying to just better the world as a whole. And I think it's such a great opportunity. It makes me happy just to think about that. I'm a part of this and I can try to help other people. What else would I say? I would say stack every single dollar you can until you can't anymore. It's just like the option, and educate yourself. Learn how to learn is the big thing. School doesn't teach us how to learn very well. Learn how to learn and just buy Bitcoin. That's probably it.
Absolutely. Spot the F on drop mic moment. Guys, we're almost at the top of the hour. And I do want to thank everyone for tuning in. Appreciate it. Like I said, guys, smash the like button. Share this video if you feel like we provided you value. Today's episode on Christmas Eve is December 24th on 2024. We will be taking Christmas Day off. If you guys want some content, don't worry. I recorded something with Larry Lepard, and we're going to be talking about his new book that just dropped, and it is going to be dropping tomorrow. And then we'll see you back. We'll see you guys back on Thursday after Christmas. But yeah, we're unplugging for Christmas, but don't worry, we'll still have content for you guys because Honey Badger Media don't stop. But yeah, go check out Gen Z for BTC on X. I'm your host, Nico. This is my legendary co-host, Optimus Fields. Our guest for today, Gen Z, like I said, we're Simply Bitcoin, and we'll see you tomorrow for we'll see you Thursday for a brand new episode. Take care, everybody, and Merry Christmas.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.